Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. What'd you think of the movie? Good stuff, right? I knew it was going to be a good story, but the acting in there across the board was just phenomenal. I'm Jim Halterman. I'm an entertainment reporter for Variety and Mashable and Out and a lot of other places. But I know you didn't come to hear about me, so we're going to bring out the actors who, it's a really great story behind this film, so we'll bring out Alysia Reiner. And Sarah Megan Thomas. Welcome. I think the story behind this movie is almost as interesting as the film itself because I'll let you guys tell it, but first of all, you're producing partners. Tell me how that started first of all, then we'll get to how the movie came about.
I think the movie came first, you know. Sarah's made a movie before, so the movie came first, and then we're like, oh, I guess we should start a production company to make this movie.
Because you need to have a production company to make a movie.
Well, as actors, is it something you've done it many times, but talk about the acting side of it, how it feeds into the producing, and I know you're also a writer, and there's a lot of other hats you're both wearing in this movie.
Well, what's so cool about being an actor and also producing and working on the story is, and especially as a woman, you get to create lots of great complex roles for women. And Alysia and I each got to have a really deep say into the journey of our characters. So I'll let her talk for hers, but for mine, it was fun to be able to play a little bit of a villain that we don't necessarily see out of women, the unexpected turn, have a pregnancy that you hide, compete with your female boss, and be able to create all those gray areas.
Yeah. For me, it was so exciting and freeing and rewarding to be able to say, oh, I get to decide, like, oh, I want to create more roles for women and diversity. I'm going to be married to a woman. She's going to be black. And that was awesome. Like, that felt so freeing. And I was not tried to be talked out of it because Sarah wouldn't talk me out of that. But, like, there are moments where it was like, oh, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I want to do that.
That was one of my questions, was about your character being a lesbian and the relationship and the home life we see.
And one of the things, you know, it's so fun to develop characters and to develop a story. There's an outrageous joy in that as an actor. And from the beginning, we talked about how do we create as much diversity of humanity in this film. And we together, before even our amazing writer, Amy Fox, came on, said, like, we want these three different women. We want one woman who has chosen not to have children. And what do those choices look like? One woman who has chosen to be a mother and to be the breadwinner of a family. And then one woman who's going through that moment of, oh, what does it mean to be a working mom? And as we are both working moms, it's a really complex decision. And I think particularly complex for actors and for our population, but then also for this population.
I was really impressed with the fact that it didn't become a movie about women versus men, or like I said to Sarah in the back, the men weren't all villains or just assholes. You know, it was a real good balance. Everybody was very flawed.
Women were assholes too.
Exactly, equal opportunity. But talk about that and the development of it and why that was important to both of you.
Well, I think one of, we like to say that one of our favorite compliments and reviews that we actually got at Sundance was when a reviewer said that these female roles could have been male roles. And I think in the development process, it was very important to both of us that just because we are two women and our director's a woman and our writer's a woman, we also have great roles for men. In fact, at one of the first read-throughs, you know, you never know what you have in a script. You think you have something in your head, but then when you hear it out loud, it's something different. And at one of the first read-throughs that we did with some of our friends, the feedback was that James Purefoy's role was actually the meatiest. So without even knowing it, we'd created a film for a man, which was fascinating. And he had some of we had to take a step back and say, whoa, we've got to like give the women, and we are women. So it's fascinating.
I want to back up a little bit just to bringing the film together, because I know it wasn't just the two of you that made the film happen. You had a lot of women behind the scenes, whether they were investors or other capacity. Can you talk about that a little bit, and even why that was important to just make sure you had that as a part of the film?
Sure. I love to say I would never know how to make a movie about bird watchers because I don't know a lot of bird watchers, right? And one of the things we talked about from the beginning, and I really learned from Sarah, was looking at who's going to watch this movie and who's going to invest in this movie. And it's really, I like to call it reverse engineering, right? And one of the most rewarding things about this is telling these people's stories who have never been told. And it's been an amazing journey, first interviewing these women and meeting all these women, then them choosing to invest. You know, we did a road show just like you watched a road show tonight. And then them feeling so outrageously validated by seeing themselves in art in a way they've never seen themselves in art. And as actors, it's like, that's what it's all about when you can really reach people's hearts in a deep way. And to be able to do that with a Wall Street thriller, right? To be able to have all these women go, oh my God, that's exactly how I felt. Oh my God, I hid my pregnancy. Oh my God, it's so, how do you money, like and the chocolate chip cookie scene is my favorite, that people love to go, 3 motherfucking chips. I'm hashtagging that. You know, like when 20-year-old girls say that to me, I'm like, yes. And that's really beautiful and amazing. And they've these women who we did interview and then became investors and then have become real mentors. And that's incredible. Have become such cheerleaders and friends. And it's really miraculous.
And one thing I just want to add to what Alysia said, which is that what the women we met with and interviewed connected to with us, Alysia and I, is that both of our professions, while so different, entertainment and Wall Street, are very similar for the struggles of women and the struggles of diversity. And so I think they really hooked into supporting us as filmmakers and actresses because they also are a minority in the profession that they work in.
A couple times in the film we hear about women and money and ambition, and it's kind of what closes the film as well. And I thought, you know, we shouldn't have to say those things anymore, but I'm guessing from the women that you talk to who are on Wall Street, who maybe help model that this all still exists very much.
Totally, and actually I have a fascinating story about that. A woman I was interviewing who is very well known in the finance world but wanted to be off the record, she's not an investor, told me what happens in these they call them compensation meetings when I was doing my research. And she's so senior that she's in these compensation meetings for the women who are younger than her. And it starts out with, well, how much money did she make? X dollars. Well, was she really the person who made that money, or was she just doing the legwork? Oh, she was just doing the legwork. Pay goes down. Oh, and the clients like her. Yeah, but do they really take her seriously, or is she too nice? Oh, she's too nice. Pay goes down. And by the time that compensation meeting was over, the woman had much less money than the man. And this is 2015 when these interviews. So, you know, we women, men, whatever, we should talk more about money. I mean, we talk about sex more than we talk about money, what people make. It's like this dirty word. And I think we need to value ourselves and feel okay saying, I want to be paid equal, like Robin Wright Penn did, you know, and just, and take that stand.
I mean, Patricia Arquette and Meryl Streep and Robin are these like heroes of mine in reference to saying, this is not okay. And I think that's part of why we make art, right? Is like to say, sometimes things are not okay. And our job as artists is to say, this is not okay, and show that and help incite the change.
Because, there we go. Yeah. There we go. Because there were so many women in the cast, and a lot of your scenes are with other women.
We passed the Bechdel test.
But
Did I go there before
Exactly. I know. But how was that? Because you both have worked on a lot of projects, but how did it feel different, or did it just feel like another day on set?
You know, I'm on Orange is the New Black. Doesn't feel different to me. There's a lot of women talking to women, not about men. So those of you who don't know what the Bechdel test is, it's in many, many, many movies and media. Women do not talk to women except about men, like statistically speaking. And the Bechdel test is, do two women speak to each other on screen for more than, I think, like 45 seconds about something other than a man? And our movie passes with flying colors. What? Because we don't we never talk about men. We're like talking about work and like important things. I love that we passed that test. There's now a Bechdel Society, and we've been invited to the society. Like, we're their poster girls. We're doing an ad campaign.
Sign us up. We're fine with that.
Well, let's talk about casting a little bit. Obviously, you cast yourselves in these roles. Were they the ones?
We actually auditioned. I'm kidding.
But were these always the roles that you wanted, or did that move around at all? And then let's talk about everybody else in the movie.
I think from the beginning, it was really important to Sarah to play the Wall Streeter. It was her idea for the movie, and she really wanted to play the Wall Streeter. And you know, it's funny. I was definitely a little disappointed about that. But I that's life. And as an artist, you're like, but I wanted to play that, but then you embrace what you have and you go, oh yeah, this will be really interesting. And it was funny for me because I hadn't played a lawyer in a while, except on like Law and Order many times, and I embraced this role, and I created this juicy human of this lesbian and this mom, and then I got cast in How to Get Away with Murder, and I was like, oh man, I'm playing a lawyer again.
It was good practice.
You always want to have the most diversity of characters to show people as many different things as you can do, right? So it was fun.
Sarah, what did you connect to with Erin?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's funny because I've never had a day job like that is a 9 to 6 type job, which is crazy if you think about it. But I've had odd jobs like bartending and all that, but I've never put on a suit and gone to work. And so I was really curious about, like, just first of all, exploring what it's like to have a rigid schedule, because I'm much more of a person who likes to make my own schedule. But what I really connected to about Erin is this woman who's really trying to have it all. And she grew up in an era where she didn't think it's any different for men and women. She's younger than Naomi. She didn't grow up where there's Title IX. She feels like she can have it all. And then she gets in the workforce and she understands that she can't have it all. And she has an unexpected baby, and how is she going to deal with that, and what's going to happen when she maybe doesn't get in life to where she wants to be at a certain point. And I think we can all relate to that. Like, what are our dreams, and what we will sacrifice to get there.
Talk about some of the other roles. James Purefoy.
He's so hot. Come on, ladies, right?
Yeah.
That British accent, damn.
And
Had us said hello.
Exactly. And your husband's in the movie? Who's here in the
My
audience?
husband,
Where's
David Allen Beige, who not only is in the movie, but was an associate producer on the movie and saved our tushies in the most massive way. And I bow to the David Allen Beige-ness of David Allen Beige.
Thank you, David. Talk about Craig Bierko, Carrie Preston, and then, of course, Anna, how Anna came into she's kind of leading the charge in the film.
We were talking about this earlier, like, I think we have the best cast on the planet. Like, I think every single actor, and yes, many of them are our friends, are brilliant, and they, even like, you know, one of my friends is the sonogram technician, right? And that originally had lines, and then honestly, for budget, we had to cut the frickin' lines.
Then we'd have to.
It's so fricking embarrassing to say that, but that's the truth of filmmaking sometimes. And I was like, do you still want to do this? You know, like, I can't. And like, I'll pay personally to travel you and put you up because the movie can't afford it, but I'll personally pay for that because I love you so much. And I'm so glad I did, because she does not have a word. But to me, she adds so much to that scene, just in her face, and like her judgment of that moment is huge. Like, you feel so much from that human being who's not doing anything in that scene, you know, and that's the testament of great acting. And
Oh, well, and I just want to add what you said is what J.K. Simmons said. I don't know if everyone remembers his Oscar, I think it was the Oscar speech, or maybe it was the SAG speech, but when he won an award, he said it's to every single actor, whether it's one line or the lead. And I think so rare, I mean, people always talk about the leads or even the supporting leads in a movie, and I think what we love about this movie is we actually really love every actor in it, and like you said, without that believability of a scene, no matter how big or small the part, it takes you out of the movie.
How did Anna come to the movie? She does such a great job as Naomi.
It was, you know, it was a process. Like any casting, it was a process. And she, her agent was really on top of us, and she really, not literally. Okay, anyway, I'm on New York time.
I slept with her agent. That's really
anyway. But you know, actually, this is a good, because we're all actors here. Her agent called us every week, and not every agent did that. And that phone call every week made us really realize how passionate she was as an actress for this role, and you always want an actress who's passionate in an indie. But Alysia and I both loved her work on Breaking Bad, and what is so great about her work is that it's very real, and it was very important to both of us that we have a realistic Wall Street movie as opposed to a glossy Wall Street movie. Not that there's anything wrong with glossy Wall Street movies, because I love them, but we wanted Anna Gunn's character to feel very lived in, a woman who works 15 hours a day.
And you know, obviously, I hope you think her performance was off the hook incredible, right? I mean, like, incredible. And I was blown away. I really was. And she trailed a lot of these women, and we did a mock IPO that we all went to, and she really did the deep research that it takes. And there's one particular investor that it blows my mind, because she has these mannerisms and this essence of this woman in a magical way.
I also have a female director, and I couldn't help, we talked about this a little bit backstage, the fact that the women are not, they're sexual, but they're not sexualized. And I feel like maybe, not to knock on men, because I'm a man, but I feel like it might have been a very different movie if it had gone through a lens of a male director.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, first of all, yes, that was a choice. And yes, Meera is brilliant. If you can ever work with her, do, even if it's one line. And that was a really important key thing for us, for all of us, that the women are not sexualized. And if anything, I feel like I, you know, sort of sexually molest a man.
But I love this. So great. Tell me a little bit about just the production itself. You know, how long were you shooting? That was one of our audience questions, actually, but curious myself, like, what was the process?
I think I think it was 24 days. Yeah. It was 6-day weeks. It was low budget, my friends. It was low budget. We pulled out every favor we possibly could. Almost all of the locations were free, and it was, we begged, stealed, and borrowed. One of the things we also did, we got Bloomberg involved very early, and they became a sponsor of the film. So all of the equipment was Bloomberg. All of the reporter sequences were actual Bloomberg reporters, and they've then also helped us with publicity. They've thrown some events for us.
All for free.
Yeah.
Which really, quite frankly, we could not have made this movie without Bloomberg, because what they did for us is, what Alysia and I were really nervous about going into raising the money for this, which is the Wall Street element, how do you do that on an indie budget? And they took that out. Yes. They took that out of the budget by creating the graphs, giving us all the computers, making it possible.
And also, I'll say, Sarah was much more familiar with this world than I was. And I like to feel like I was a little bit of a litmus test of like, does this track for someone who doesn't know this world as much? And we tried to make the reporters a real Greek chorus, so that if you didn't really understand the language of what was going on, you get to hear it again from a reporter in that reportery language.
Yeah, I know sometimes when I'm hearing financial reports, or the same thing with government, and I tend to just glaze over, but I didn't, because I think you guys did present it all very simply for somebody like me that needed it told simply. But talk about that, just that financial world a little bit, and what you learned from it, because it sounds like you really had to dig deep. It wasn't just on the surface with characters. You had to really understand that world.
We all did, and none of us really knew the investment banking world, which is the world that this. And what's interesting that I didn't know is, like, Wall Street's kind of like being a doctor. So like, if you're a skin doctor, you're not going to be delivering babies. And so we've seen a lot of traders in all the movies, and we'd never seen investment banking. And so we really had to do a lot of research. And like Alysia said, Goldman Sachs let us come in, and they did a roadshow for us, and they showed us like the old roadshow books. They went through what pitches were like. We spoke to a lot of women. It was also a lot of fun. I mean, because you're actors, but the research, for me as an actor, I think the research is the most fun, to really delve into that world.
For a lot of the actors here that may want to produce or write or direct, how was that for you? You were doing so much work behind the scenes. How did it influence maybe your performance a little bit, or was it something you had to just shut off when you got in front of the camera?
I think we had very different approaches to it in a way. For me, I love how distracting it was, because it got me out of my own head. And my head is a really bad neighborhood. I don't know about any of you, but I really like worrying about taking care of everybody else and solving the problems on set. And I found that a lot of the days I was shooting, I would be like, oh, do more takes on that person. Like, let them feel good and taken care of. And then, oh, there's only 20 minutes to do my scene. Okay. And in fact, that money speech that I do that wasn't originally at the end of the film, but now is, we had 2 takes on. We had a jacket issue. My jacket, we've all been there, right? Where the jacket was moving, right? The jacket had a pattern that was moving, and then the jacket didn't match the pants. And so we originally had an hour to do that scene, and then it got shaved down to 20 minutes to do that entire scene. And I got 2 takes, and thank God I knew my lines.
You nailed it, I think. That was, for being the end of the movie, that's pretty good. How was your experience, Sarah?
Yeah, I think it's a really tough experience. I think for me, the metaphor is more, I was an athlete growing up, and I think that was really, really helpful when it's go time to be able to go and then stop and then switch and reassess and go. And so I have to put on the hat, take it off, put on the hat, take it off. So like, if my acting's hat is on, and we said this to our fantastic line producer, Brian David Cand, who's amazing, said to him, look, if I am acting in a scene, you cannot tell me any producing problems for this 2 hours. And when I'm not in the scene, that's fine. But that was how I worked, because I actually did this before on another film called Backwards, which I hope you all will see. And I didn't do that, and I found it much harder to act, because you are in your head as a producer. And so when you have to switch out of your head as an actor, it's hard to do it quickly. As Alysia said, we don't have the David Fincher set, which I really want to work on with 97 takes. That would be a lot of fun.
I don't want 97 takes, unless I'm working with him. But yeah.
Well, tell me how this movie has opened up a lot of doors for you otherwise, because I think I saw in some of the production notes, you guys have been talking a lot about women in film, and talk about that a little bit. I think were you at the White House?
I was, yeah.
about that.
Well, that's been amazing. I was at the White House. I was just at Cannes talking about women in power, and Unilever's doing a new big thing called Unstereotype, which I'm so excited to be part of. But it's also been amazing to then support my friends who are doing similar things. You know, I'm working right now on Whitney Cummings' movie, and she wrote, direct, and starred in it. And it also has a lot of women on, like, of the two cameras, one of the cameras, all women, like full women. And there's some amazing women roles, and it's called The Female Brain. So there you go. And then I also just did Louis C.K.'s new show, which is a sort of a female-based Louis C.K., and it's Pamela Adlon, who he's been working with for years, and also one of those women who just has been working and working and working, and was a writer and a actress and a voice actor, and made a lovely living. But this is, you know, she's in her late 40s, I think, and she's very open about that, or I'd never tell you that. And just is having her first series that she wrote, directed, and is starring in for FX. Watch it. September 10th it comes out, and it's so exciting. Sort of, you know, I feel like I was inspired by Orange, and I was inspired by working in Shondaland and all these like outrageously powerful women. And then you get to be the inspiration for your friends, and to help your friends do it too, and we all sort of raise it up.
Sarah, what's your experience been since doing this?
No, there's been so many wonderful doors that have been opened. I mean, I just did a photo shoot for Mary Claire for non-toxic skincare for a woman who lost her whole family for cancer, and being able to be a part of that kind of stuff is just fantastic. And we did something at Variety's Powerful Women, and it's just fantastic to be in a room with people like Julianne Moore, who, you know, I don't want to get too political, but, you know, is all about gun control and charities for that. And just, it's been also really exciting for me personally as a filmmaker, the doors that have opened for my next film. You know, Equity's my second as a producer actress, and both were really, really tough. And my next one's a much larger budget, and it's just been wonderful, the doors that open, you know, when you sell your film. And the reason I actually bring that up is because after Backwards, it was tough to get back on the horse, because it was so hard. And it didn't sell to Sony Classics. It didn't have that dream story, and it did very well for its budget. But it didn't have as much luck as Equity. And so I just want to encourage you all to always get back on the horse, because you may not hit it out of the park the first time around.
Great advice. We have a couple audience questions, a couple of which we've already talked about. But Mary had a question for both of you. What is the best advice you've ever received as an actor? Some really good advice that you've heard in your life.
I actually just did a podcast, and it's for Forbes, and you can listen to me talk about this story again. But she said, like, she asked the same question, and I had to think about it, so I know the answer now. And I said, so I had this acting teacher who's out here named Ian Tucker. Has anyone studied with Ian Tucker? No. Anyway, he's amazing. And he talked about being a shedder. And by that, he means it's your job as an actor to work on your shit and let it go. And every audition you walk into and every meeting you walk into, don't bring your baggage. Because if you do, you walk in with luggage and you turn to the casting director or the director, or if you have the job, to, you know, the people you're working with, and you're like, here, hold my baggage while I audition for you or while I work with you. And nobody wants to hold anybody else's bags. Like, that's a life lesson, is learn how to let go of your own baggage. Don't bring it to work. And it could be anything from the traffic before the audition, right, which can drive you bazonkers, to, you know, whatever deep personal stuff is going on for you. Part of our job is to let go of that before we walk in the room and have whatever tools you need to do that.
That's great advice. Sarah, do you have any advice that you've been given?
I mean, I think the most useful one is not really too intellectual, but I think it really works, and that is to have fun. And I know it sounds like so simple, but I mean, why did we all get into this in the first place? It's to play. And I have a 2-year-old, and I watch him play, and the reason it's actually, if you think about it, actually is pretty insightful. Like, if you watch a child play, they're very focused on what they're doing, and they're not thinking about other things. And sometimes you can just watch a child play something because they're so focused on that. And I think that is a useful tip, because if you're on stage or in a film and you're so focused and playing and having fun, that is enticing, and that makes people want to watch.
Both are great. Sarah, you mentioned a little bit about what could come of equity in the future.
Well, we developed it with a sequel movie or television series in place. So one of the things that I do highly recommend if you want to make a film is think about the afterlife of it and how you can make the most money off of a single movie. And so we very much developed the ending where all 3 women were in very different places and in a new place. I hope you felt that. You know, we're developing it to the sequel-ish.
I could see it as a series. I don't know about you guys. It could totally work as a series. And I think I know some actors who could be in it.
Oh.
I don't know. Well, thank you so much for everybody. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah.